Railings may have many user configurable settings, and they have a feature that allows them to have customizable top and handrails. Those top and handrails can have built-in extension parameters that will automatically extend the handrails either below or above the bottoms and tops of the stair runs. And this can help us build a railing type that complies with local building codes. So in this movie, we're going to look at the process to set up railing extensions. Now, it's a fairly complex process, so I've decided to create a very simple exercise file for this purpose, but we're still going to have several steps that we're going to have to go through, so we have to be somewhat methodical about the approach. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to take the two railings that I have, and they're currently the same. They're 900 millimeter pipe on both sides of the stair, and I'm going to create two different types. One on the left side of the stair, which is going to have a return that goes back to the wall, and one on the right side of the stair that's going to have a return that comes back to the railing post. So I'll select this one, edit its type, and duplicate it, and I'm just going to add the word wall return on the end, and click OK. Then I'll select this one, edit its type, duplicate it, and add post return to the end of the name, and click OK. So that's the first step and by far the easiest. Now, in a lot of Revit types, that's really all we would need to do, and then we could modify each type. But the problem we have in this case is what we actually want to modify, if we go back to edit type, is we actually want to modify the parameters of the top rail or the handrails. And you can see that the top rail is set to another type, which is currently called 40 millimeters. Now, if I open up the drop-down list, there are some other choices in there, but the list of choices is the same regardless of which one of these rails I choose. So what I actually need to do is create a new type for that list. Now, I can't do it here in this dialog. So where I have to do that is actually on the project browser. So I'm going to scroll down on the project browser and expand families, and then I'll locate the railings branch and expand it. And then I'm looking for the top rail type branch and expand it. And then finally, there is circular 40 millimeter. I'm going to right click it and choose duplicate. That'll create 40 millimeter 2. And I'll rename that with the right click and remove the 2 and call it post return. So now I'm going to work on this one first then, and I'm going to select it, go to edit type, and I now want to assign that new type that I just created called post return to that railing. Now click OK, and still nothing happens. So you can see there's a great deal of setup before you even get any payoff. Okay, so at least now we have a type and it's assigned to the correct subsettings. Now what we need to do is actually modify this post return and tell it to do a return. So we can do that right here by right-clicking it and going to Type Properties. When that dialog displays, there's a number of settings that are in here, and what we want to do is, let's move this out of the way so that we can see the drawing window in the background. We want to focus on the extension at beginning and bottom. So the extension style is currently set to none. The length is currently set to 0. So there's a few things we can do here. For the length, I'm going to put in 300. Now let's just try that and see what happens. When I click apply, watch what happens. Notice that the top rail here has extended out 300 millimeters. Now this one did not extend out because I've created this brand new type here, and that's the only place that applies. So that's why it was important that we make that separate type. Now, if I look at extension style, there's actually 3 options there: wall, floor, and post. So let's try post style and click apply, and you'll see that not only does it extend out the 300 millimeters, but it wraps back around to the post. There's also this checkbox here to add a tread depth, and when I choose that, it'll extend it out a little further to match 1 tread depth. Now, if you want, you could switch from post to floor, and it would return down to the floor. Now, even though wall is an option there, it won't actually show anything in this case. So what I'm going to do is set it back to post, OK out of there, and to do the wall return, I'm going to go to the other railing now. Now, this is the top rail, and you can actually tab in to select it. So that's another way that you could get to that edit type there. But it's not actually the top rail that I want to use to do a wall return. It's actually the handrail type. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and you'll notice that there's already a pipe wall mount type on the list here. So I'm going to right-click it and show you the type properties. So here on the type properties, let's move this over here. You can see that the profile that it's using is just a circular 30 millimeter profile. So it's just a round railing. But down here under extension beginning and bottom, they don't have any of the settings, but it's the same settings that we were just looking at for the top rail. So in other words, I could put in an extension amount, maybe 300 millimeters. I could add a tread depth. And this time I could actually do a wall return. Now, if I click OK there, nothing's going to happen because I've modified that type, but I'm not actually using it yet in the railing. So what I'm going to do is come over here and select this railing, edit its type, and then come down here to handrail 1 and change the type to pipe wall mount. Now, if I click apply, still nothing happens. So this is where this can be very frustrating because there's so many steps to get this right. Well, notice that right above that, it says position, and it currently says none. So that's the little tricky part right here. Unless you actually assign this somewhere, either left or right or both, then it doesn't show up. Now, I'm not sure if I want left or right. I'll just take a guess. I'll click apply. And if it gives me what I want, then I'm fine. If not, then I would just change it to right and click OK. But that seems to have done the trick. And notice that it does the extension here. It's returning back into the wall. And furthermore, you can actually see that that particular railing also has these little angled supports there. Let's click OK, and that completes the configuration of those extensions. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of steps to get this set up properly. But once it's set up, it's actually a very powerful tool that allows you to build in whatever code requirements the jurisdiction you work in has directly into your railing types and have them respond accordingly.